And to Eubank versus Benn press week. And what a week it is going to be, because in about 10 or 15 minutes, the greatest, the oldest, the most bitter British boxing rivalry of all time is going to explode back into life. The beast has been sleeping for 30 years. But when these two families come together, hostilities will be renewed. There is just no question that that is what is going to happen. Dave Caldwell and Sonny Edwards alongside me. Dave, and it gives me no shame to say it, we're both old enough to remember this the first time around. And honestly, I feel like I'm in a dream, because I've been thinking all day about that rivalry and how it really just sucked me down the rabbit hole into boxing, and from which there has been no return for me. It was so intense, it was so massive at the time, and now we get to see it all again. I still can't quite believe it, even though this was supposed to happen now, this fight between the two boys over 2 years ago, but now we are going to get to see it.
Well, firstly, I can't believe it's 2.5 years since it was supposed to originally happen. Time's just flying. But going back even further than that, the original Benn versus Eubank, that fight was the kickstart that made me walk into a boxing gym. I walked into the boxing gym for the first time ever 2 days after that fight. It was just everything. I remember watching it, I remember the rivalry up to it, the ITV signing the contracts and everything like that. You're a little bit younger, you don't.
I was about to say, that was a long time ago, Dave.
I remember it all.
I wonder what I was doing.
I remember it all. So the bitterness and it never died down. It's something that's gone for years and years and years. And now, the only thing that makes me feel old is when you see that their kids have now got that same rivalry and that same bitterness. And it's just going to be, it's going to be fireworks. The lead up, obviously, these days we've got social media, so that the rivalry is even bigger. And then come fight night, everything gets settled in the ring.
Well, the fight coming on April the 26th at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. This is a Ring Magazine card. Fatal Fury it's being called, and I cannot wait for fight night. But this week is going to be interesting. And Sonny, that's the thing about it, basically, is that so many people will invest in this, because if you're my age or a bit younger, then you remember it the first time, and anyone who was around then remembers it, because it was a different world. 4 channels, national newspapers, radio, that was it. If you were on that, then everyone knew you. But your generation of boxing fans, you know all about that, and you know these two, and it's just this kind of story that seemingly is never going to end.
Yeah, and it's like one of those fights of the storyline that no matter how saturated the boxing market might get, no matter how many different platforms you might be able to view boxing, this is one of those fights, and the namesakes of Benn and Eubank, the history that comes with it. The first fight was massive. It was massive, and just as the fight was creeping up, the promos, all the cameras from every single media news outlet around Britain and worldwide was coming to the fight. And let's face it, sports fans, we love a scandal. And if nothing else, it created a ball roll of probably one of the biggest modern day British boxing, if nothing else, sports scandals that I've ever witnessed live. I was there heading down to the show excited. I was going to be working Lyndon's corner. He got last minute put onto the card. And then when it all sort of came out and the news broke, I feel like we didn't hear much about much else for a very long time, and I feel like we've put all that behind us now. I feel like we've been patiently waiting for a long time, and I think it's happening in the perfect place, the capital city. A fight like this, of this magnitude, this long history, it needs to be settled, properly, and I think it is getting done just that.
So, Conor Benn, I believe, is in the house. Here he is, arriving a little bit earlier on. Dad Nigel just standing there behind him. As I understand it, I think Christopher Eubank Jr might be keeping us all waiting a little bit, which is kind of par for the course. That's again another aspect to it, because he is like his dad in a lot of ways. There's only one Eubank Senior, but what's in the cat, as the saying goes, is generally in the kitten, and that has absolutely proved to be true for these two. What people are talking about in the build-up in terms of the specifics is the fact that we didn't think we'd see this, and the reason we didn't think we'd see it was because when they were coming up, or when Conor Benn was coming up, he was a super lightweight, really, but started at welterweight. Chris has been a middleweight and at times a super middleweight, so it just it just wasn't doable, Dave. There was too much between the pair of them.
Fantasy, weren't it?
It was.
Yeah, we just talked about it like you know, we talk about fantasy matchups. It was kind of like that. It was you know, it was romanticized by because of the fathers, because of the names, but it was never taken with any real seriousness until it did, and until it like came out of the blue, and that was it. And yeah, that's what makes it fascinating, because I think there's obviously the size difference, and you think, you know, the weight difference. There's weight divisions for a reason, and you know, you look at the stats there: 5'8", 5'11", you know. But the one thing that I will say, yes, that, you know, you look at the weight, the 168 that Eubank's been weighing at. He's going to weigh 160 for this. Has Conor Benn got it in him to go up to that weight and have strong? But the one thing that I look at as well is look at the age. 35 years old against 28 years old, and that for me is the kicker, where it makes it a little bit more intriguing, and it makes it where actually this could be doable for Conor Benn. Because for the first time I looked at Chris Eubank in the last fight that he had, and I thought, you look old. And so if Father Time is catching up on him, and we know Father Time can catch you and snatch you at any time, when you're 35 years old.
Yes, Tony, that's a good point, isn't it? Because when you think about miles on the clock, Conor Benn doesn't really have any. He had a hard time against Cedric Payno back in the day at York Hall. I was there for that. Got put down a couple of times, ended with a couple of black eyes. But he then just moved through opponents fairly seamlessly. He's been out, obviously, which isn't ideal. The 2 fights he's had since the first one was supposed to happen, and all the drama around the failed tests, he wasn't all that impressive, but he wasn't posed any problems either. Whereas Eubank he's had a hard career. You know, he's had to take hard fights. He's been in some good tussles. He got mercilessly chinned by Liam Smith not that long ago. Okay, he came back and won the rematch, but that does something to you. How much of a factor is it, do you think?
Yeah, I think what makes this fight interesting, as well as the history that we keep talking about, is there does seem to be quite a few variables, like you mentioned, the age, and that has definitely got to be factored for. For Chris Eubank Jr., I do genuinely believe he looks after his body as well as a professional boxer can outside of camp. I feel like even when he has some bits outside of the ring, he's still relatively close to where he can start camp. I don't think his discipline's an issue, which will probably give him more years without falling off the cliff. For me, the main thing not only is the 4-inch reach advantage, not the 3-inch height advantage, it's also that for me, Chris Eubank Jr. has fought, won, and also lost at a far better level, in my opinion. Forget the weight, just the level of the opposition at better for all three than Conor Benn, and I think by quite a distance as well. I think, okay, Chris Eubank has fell short a couple of times on the way here when he's really stepped up, but we've never really questioned the level that he's lost at. He's only ever lost against good opposition. Look, and he got his most recent defeat back straight and in an impressive manner against Liam Smith, no less. And I think, I don't know, I think there's too many cons for the Benn camp in this, with the weight, having never fought at it, having to go up 2 full whole weight classes, starting at 140 from what I can remember, having that hard fight on the way up, probably having as hard of a fight against Payno than Chris Eubank did outside of a world level fight at any stage of his career against anyone that he was in the ring against. And I don't know, I feel like there's massive props for the Benn family and Conor especially for taking this fight. But this, for me, personally, I know my opinion doesn't matter for much, really, in the grand scheme of things, but this, for me, would be one of the bigger sport upsets if Conor Benn was to pull this off.
That's a good breakdown. That's a really interesting breakdown, because there are lots of variables. And with boxing, as ever, because we create our own fixtures, you can create smoke and mirrors, and you can claim that you're somewhere that maybe you can get to, but you haven't actually got the T-shirt just yet. And I think there has been a reasonable amount of that going on with Conor Benn, particularly with the time that he's had out. He's had to keep his name there and keep his name relevant. And I have to say, he's done a very, very good job of that. And today, Thursday, when we're at Spurs for the other press conference, I'll be interested to see who takes what role. Do you expect Benn to get on the front foot and be really aggressive, and Eubank do his usual kind of laid back, seen it all, done it all, quick one-liners?
Well, I think when the fight was originally supposed to happen, in the build-up to it, I thought Eubank played an absolute blinder because he allowed Conor to run away with his mouth. And Eubank's replies were so sharp, to the point, witty, and even people that don't like Chris Eubank Jr. and they see him as the arrogance, the pomp, they warmed to him, and they was like, do you know what? I really like him in this build-up. And he played a blinder because he got the, if you remember, he got a lot of fans on his side that wouldn't normally be Eubank Jr. fan. So I think he'll probably go down the same sort of route. I think he'll be clever, he'll be smart, because I think he is a little bit more. He is a little bit more wittier than what Conor is. He is a little bit more, you know, vociferously intellectual. You know, so I think he will go down that route again. Be smart.
What's interesting since the first fight too, Sonny, is that Eubank his whole career, and he's referenced this a few times recently, has kind of always been the bad guy. He's been the arrogant guy. People have kind of wanted to see him lose and come unstuck and all that kind of thing. And he did say at a press conference for one of his recent fights, I've had this many fights, I've never done anything wrong, I've always been a professional, and yeah, I've always been the bad guy. I wonder why that is. Whereas now I don't think he is. Conor Benn is now, isn't he, basically, in the sporting public's eyes. And he seems to have, that'll hurt him, but I think he seems to have accepted it and just thought, look, I just need to ride this, because what else can I do?
Yeah, and I feel like, and I don't know if I'm speaking out of place, from my knowledge of Chris Eubank Sr.'s career, a lot of his personality and his efforts in the ring seem to come from a place of public acceptance and being a champion of the people. And I feel like you can see the evidence of that all the way through his career, even to now and to this day. And I think maybe Chris Eubank Jr., he grew up watching that and the effect that had on people. And I think he's just ever been willing to really care as much about being accepted or being championed by the public opinion. I think that's never really been Chris Eubank Jr.'s storyline. He's never cared for it. He's never been a working class hero. He comes very well presented, very well dressed, very well spoken, extremely confident and secure about his performance. Even when he has had slip-ups, he's not let that deviate at all, I think, from his confidence that he brings to the ring, his assertiveness, his aggression, and even when he is having a look at fighters, he's always putting on a show, or at least trying to. Some fights it's been harder to than others, but I think he's always had that genuine bit of gentleman's spite about him, and that's how I've always sort of perceived it, that someone that is comfortable enough to not consciously try and win any public favour and just takes the rough with the smooth as it comes. And I think that's why he set himself into a perfect opposition, because where he'd kind of almost been very typical what you expect from Chris Eubank Jr. in the build-up to the fight, confident, witty, intellectual, articulate. But when he let, you know, Ben sort of follow his father's footsteps, you know, Nigel, bringing the aggression and bringing that sort of animosity into the ring, he let him set him up for all of that. And before he even had to get in the ring and be the gentleman and be champion or winner, he kind of was, because of how the fight didn't happen and the scandal that surrounded it. And yeah, okay, he might not have, in my opinion, captured as much of that momentum that he could have when he got that big, you know, fanfare sort of for Chris Eubank Jr., but I don't think there's another single event that can get him back to that same level and push him on past that than this fight that we're seeing.
The occasion's a big thing, always, isn't it? I'm not talking about today necessarily or Thursday, but April the 26th at Tottenham Hotspur, it'll sell out. I'm convinced of that. How do you handle that? Because Eubank has got more experience of that. It doesn't mean that Conor Benn will shrink from it. I do not expect that to happen. He might absolutely revel in it. How might it affect the two fighters when the bell goes? Everyone says that it doesn't. You have to be ice cold, and I accept that. In an ideal world, that is what happens. But it doesn't always play out like that. If that touch paper gets lit and they both lose their head a bit, who does that favour more?
I think, touching on what Sonny was saying there about Chris not caring, he doesn't care what we all think. He never has cared about what we all think. So when you don't care about what people perceive you to be, how people are going to react to you, whether people want you to win or lose, when you don't care, it doesn't matter whether there's 5 people in the audience or if there's 62,000 people in the audience. You don't care. I think we can safely say that Conor Benn does care what people think about himself. It does feed off the energies of the crowd. it does, you know, even when he wins, the way that he roars at the crowd, you know, the way that he's took offence to a lot of people with over the last couple of years, how they've reacted. He does care what people think. So when it comes down to who's going to feel, if anybody's going to feel the pressure coming out, or have the 60,000 people shouting and screaming have any sort of effect on the performance, it's Conor Benn. Now, whether that's in a good way, because some fighters, they need... I remember Josh Warrington, when Josh got beat by Lara, it was behind closed doors. And one of the first things that he said is, it was weird, no crowd, no... Now, we always say it shouldn't make any difference, but people are human. And like I said, some people it does have an effect on. So, with that crowd, does the nerves and the energy of the crowd become a positive thing for a Conor Benn or a negative thing? Because that can sap you, it can drain you, you can try too hard, you can be too emotional, because he is very emotional in this fight, whereas I think that Chris is a lot more emotionally detached, you know, and he is very calculated, and that comes from him really not caring about what people think.
How do you see it? How do you see the kind of the occasion on the night when it's packed there and we're watching them ring walk and we're all kind of studying their faces, looking for little signs as to where the pair of them are at?
I agree with Dave, to be honest. I do think that the crowd, the event, the atmosphere plays a massive part, because when you're fighting, you're still having a conversation with yourself subconsciously in the ring. And however that boils out, however the crowd split of cheering, I think every little bit will have some little bit of effect. And I do really agree with what you said. As I said, that Chris Eubank, I don't think has too much care what anyone thinks. If anything, it always looks like he's kind of prodding little knee-jerk reactions, if anything. For me, Conor Benn's always been, and I don't mean it disrespectfully, but a bit more of a character. When the camera's on, their energy is very high, it's very intense, his voice kind of changes, it comes off, and you kind of have a different, more friendly, oh, he's actually really sound, his conversation with him. And I understand the entertainment aspect of it, but there's like a level of confidence you get from just relaxing and being yourself, rather than, oh, the cameras are on now and it's the moment for me to shine. And I think Chris Eubank is more comfortable in that, and I do think, not only with the size that we talked about before, if the fight goes off, I think emotionally, I don't think he'll be as invested as it. I do genuinely believe that they're looking at their characters and what they've also gone through. Like, Chris Eubank hasn't had the last 2 years that Conor Benn has. Conor Benn's probably had 2 of the worst years in his life. It doesn't matter what his life set up or how many people know him because of boxing. Once the angle of the public opinion of you changes, all of a sudden your mindset is going to be very, very different. And, you know, to have what kind of marked his boxing career is probably one of the hardest things to go through as a fighter, and still walking out the door and seeing the faces. Everyone's seen it, everyone's heard it, everyone's watched interviews, everyone saw the press release, and it does start feeling like the walls are closing in. But at the same time, he has the chance to put all of that right, all of the doubters, all of the negative hearsay towards him and his name and his career, by doing the job on the 26th of April. And that's what boxing gives you, that opportunity.
Okay, I don't think we're too far away now. Timekeeping with Chris Eubank is always a little bit of a lottery. He's playing a little bit of a game here, I'm sure, just trying to take a few points early on, making Conor Benn wait for him. That's a skyline in Manchester. As I said, this is the old G-Mex. Eubank fought here 3 times, Nigel Benn once. Their second fight was just up the road at Old Trafford in October 1993. And those are the stats, and you see that Eubank is a more experienced fighter with 234 rounds under his belt, but the upside for Conor Benn is that, as we've been mentioning, there aren't the miles on the clock that you could argue that there are with Eubank, although I do absolutely agree with Sonny that he's always lived a life as we describe it, and has never strayed too far away from weight, although it is hard for him to make 160 now. I saw him at the weigh-in for his last fight in Saudi Arabia, and he worked right up until the last minute there to get that weight off and make it. Nothing massively unusual about that, but I think it is actually quite tricky for him. I think he's been at his most energised at 168, although people would argue that that's not really his weight, but where do you feel best is really what you're looking for, and I always feel like it probably has been super middleweight, so I think it is quite hard for him to make 160. We haven't got time to answer this one. This next one I'm gonna throw. I'm just gonna pull the pin out and just lob it in. Who's it more important for? Who's got more at stake? I can't make my mind up, because if Benn loses, you could argue, where does he go? I know there's a rematch clause here, I do believe, but let's just treat this as a single fight. If Benn loses, what does that do to him? Where does he go? But if Eubank loses, it's going to be incredibly hard to take, because he does go into this fight a favourite, I think.
Yeah, I think I would have to say that coming off the back of the 2.5 years, going straight into this fight as such. I know he's had a couple of fights, but it's the first high-profile fight that Conor's had. But the 2.5 years to go into this fight, the family pride, the family history, I think Conor wears that on his sleeve. And I think a defeat to Chris Eubank Jr. would hurt him more. I think, like I said, Eubank Jr. He's been beat before, for starters, and I think he'd kind of take it matter of factly. I don't think it'll mean as much to him, to be honest.
I'm not sure about that.
I think if we're looking at career-wise, I genuinely think this is one of those fights, one of those events, one of those pieces of art that is so unique to another fight out there possible for you in your career. It's almost like one of those events that we had to see. We genuinely did, and I think that same mindset kind of affords the luxury that with the exposure, with the eyes, with the attention, no matter how the storyline plays out and how everyone has to navigate the career after that, I think both fighters will have a big push and rise in the stock. Really, no matter what happens, I think that this event will be so big. And I genuinely mean that. I think there's sometimes that you don't really have to worry about it. The event's that big.
Okay, so people are assembling behind us. Jonathan Banks, Ronnie Davis on the Eubank side of the table. Ben Shalom will be down there as well. Nigel Benn, the Dark Destroyer, taking his seat on the far right-hand side of the stage. Looking at him still just kind of gives me the shivers, to be honest. I saw him out jogging around the O2 about 5 or 6 years ago, before I'd even met him, and I totally fanboyed him. He was walking towards me, and I just kind of like stood there, just kind of staring at him, and he gave me a look that he would have given fans millions of times. Just kind of went, you know, just looking at me like, who is this absolute clown, and why has he lost the ability to speak? But you know, people like that, they when you remember them from your early days, and like you said, we're the same. You first went to the gym because of this. I became a boxing lifer because of this. It just stays with you. Michael Buffer's here as well, and that gives you a strong indication that this is a big fight. It's unusual to have 2 press conferences in a week for a start, isn't it? A press tour. I can't remember the last time I've been on one of these, to be honest. Even with Joshua, we'd have a press conference away out for those 4 stadium fights in a row. There may well have been a New York one and a London one for Ruiz, but to have 2 in 3 days, it's going to be great, because it's not going to be dull. It is not going to be dull.
No, and you know, with these two, they're both characters, and there's always going to be something for them to say. You know, on the tour, some people, some opponents, you struggle to get words out of them for one press conference. They fill one press conference, and it can be, it's a waste of time. With these two, I don't think we're going to have that problem at all.
Okay, so I'm going to gamble and say we'll go now. Here's Michael Buffer.
Good evening, and it's great to be here. For those of you who don't know who I am, allow me to introduce myself. I'm the only person in the sport of boxing to have ever been in the same ring with Mike Tyson, Evander Holyfield, Tyson Fury, marvelous Marvin Hagler, many, many more, and none of them ever laid a hand on me. So that's because after I introduce them, I get the hell out of the ring and enjoy the fight. Now, I'd like to point something out. This month, 37 years ago, in Bingley Hall in Stafford, a town about 45 miles south of here, was the very first time I worked in the UK. It was Frank Tate versus Tony Simpson for the middleweight championship of the world. I was nervous as hell, but by the time the fight was over and the night was over, I was in love with the great fight fans here in the UK. So I'd just like to say, in return, after 37 years, it's great to still be here occasionally. And I still, especially for the past decade, refer to the UK as my home away from home, and I love you guys. So we are here for a very special reason. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the kickoff press conference for the Ring Magazine inaugural event. Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, Saturday, April 26th at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, London. 35 years ago, their fathers fought 2 times, 2 wars in the 1990s for the super middleweight and middleweight championships of the world, setting the stage for a family rivalry like no other in the history of the sport. So, ladies and gentlemen, this contest will be brought to you by Ring Magazine and SNK Corporation, the publisher of the famous video fighting game Fatal Fury, City of Wolves, along with Eddie Hearn for Matchroom Boxing and Ben Shalom for Boxer. It'll be broadcast live on DAZN Worldwide and on Sky Sports Box Office in the United Kingdom and Ireland. Now, seated behind me, let me introduce the chairman of Matchroom Boxing, the aforementioned Eddie Hearn, the CEO and founder of Boxer, Ben Shalom, the legendary trainer and cornerman for both Chris Eubank Jr. and Sr., Ronnie Davis, along with Chris's head trainer, former heavyweight contender Jonathan Banks, and the father of Conor Benn from the WBC Boxing Hall of Fame, the former middleweight and super middleweight champion of the world, the Dark Destroyer, Nigel Benn. So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, let's meet the fighters and bring them out to the stage and to their seats. First, with an outstanding perfect record, 23 fights, 23 victories, 14 wins by knockout, the former WBA Continental Champion and the and the undefeated champion, Conor the Destroyer Benn. Conor Benn, undefeated, and his opponent on Saturday, April 26th, with a record of 34 victories, 23 wins by knockout, 3 defeats. He is the IBO middleweight champion and former IBO 2-time super middleweight world champion, Chris, the next generation, Eubank Jr. Making an entrance like his dad, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get on with the rest of this press conference. It's for the fans, it's for the fighters.
Move on. As a fighter, I want to be seated as close to my enemies as possible. I want to be able to see.
I agree. This was Eddie's choice. This was Eddie's choice.
Of course it was Eddie's choice. Of course Eddie wants the promoters to be in between the fighters. So I'm going to sit here, and Ben, you should sit there. You do what you want.
I don't know who the fuck you're talking
Good idea, Chris.
I don't know who you think you're talking to, silly bollocks.
So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our host for the press conference, Mr. Ade Oladipo.
Thank you, Michael. I don't think I'm needed. That was already going to start without me. But before we get going, thank you so much to everyone for attending, all the media. But most importantly, I always say this, the fans as well. Thank you for turning up. Manchester has become, I think, the home of British boxing. We've had so many good events at the AO Arena, the Co-op Live, and I think there are going to be more big events coming in the next few months. I will say this, though. It is a little quiet in this arena. So on 3, I do need you guys to join in with me. On 3, I want you to say Manchester as loud as you can to kind of get the energy in this building going a little bit. So 1, 2... Manchester! Wait, 1 second. Let's try that again. A bit more Manchester. Here we go again. On 3. 1, 2. Manchester! There you go. That's more like it. Welcome to the kickoff press conference for the Ring Magazine's inaugural event, Chris Eubank Jr. versus Conor Benn, which will take place at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, April 26th in London. We all know the Benn and Eubank rivalry. We all know the names of the fathers. It goes back 4 decades. And 32 years ago, they fought here in Manchester for the final time at Old Trafford. Now, finally, it's time for the Sons to get it on. The unbeaten Conor Benn, with a record of 23-0, 14 knockouts, will move up in weight to take on the IBO World Middleweight World Champion, Chris Eubank Jr., with a record of 34-3 with 25 knockouts. The event is being brought to you by Ring Magazine, SNK Corporation, the publisher of the famous video fighting game Fatal Fury, City of Wolves, Eddie Hearn of Matchroom Boxing, and Ben Shalom of Boxer. And the event will be broadcast on DAZN worldwide and Sky Sports box office in the UK and Ireland. For fight fans, look, I speak as a fight fan as well. Boxing is as good as it's ever been. Big shows nearly every single week, stacked fight cards, and more importantly, the most important thing, the best fighting the best. That's what we as fight fans want to see. I have just caught my breath from the last crescendo, which was an incredible event, and we moved to this press conference to build up to a fight that is now much, much bigger 2.5 years later. And it has an incredible undercard as well. We'll get to that a bit later, but I want to kick things off straight away. Eddie, I want to come to you straight away. Here we are, 2.5 years later, Eddie. There's been some ups and downs, ebbs and flows. There was a time when I thought we'd missed the boat on this fight. As we sit here now, knowing this fight is 100% going to happen, how are you feeling?
I can't believe it. I mean, I couldn't believe it the first time around. And, you know, we got to a stage, the fight was announced.
Eddie,
it was the...
you know I don't like you, right?
I don't know.
So if you know that, what on God's sweet green earth makes you think I'm going to sit here and listen to any of the bollocks that you have to say about it?
To be honest, I mean, you're going to have to.
No.
You are?
We're not. We're going to have some parliamentary procedure here today.
Okay. Well, one thing's for sure, you ain't no prime
minister. And we're going to skip past whatever bullshit it was you thought you was going to talk about, and we're going to continue on with the press conference. Ade, you may proceed.
So as I was saying, Ade.
No.
You get your turn.
This is not the Eddie Hearn show.
One thing's for sure, it ain't the Chris Eubank show.
This is not the Eddie Hearn show.
No.
This is Eubank versus Ben. So you can either sabotage this.
You got your man to your right is going to say a few words.
You can either sabotage the event, and I'll just start talking to Ben personally, directly, or you can be quiet and we can move on with the press conference. I don't want to hear anything you have to say.
I mean, you can do whatever you want.
We can be here all day.
I've been addressed.
We can be here all day.
I've been addressed.
I don't want to hear what you have to say. So
well, to be honest with you, many people do.
Ade,
I think I'm more popular than you.
Ade, if you want to control the situation and move forward, you can.
I'm enjoying this. This is almost like a mini face-off.
So how would you run the press conference, Chris? Because you're such an unbelievable promoter.
I'm not running it, but I'm just not listening.
So what happens now?
We move on.
What, you talk?
I'd love to talk, but if not me, somebody else.
I'll tell you what I'll do. Conor Benn. How are we feeling about smashing this geezer to pieces April 26th?
Let's hear from Conor.
Yeah? Because I'll tell you something now. I can't wait. I can't wait. I look at you. I look at Nigel. I look at Nigel wants to get in the ring and have a tear-up.
Do you know what? Listen, Chris can say what he wants. The bottom line is, his dad don't even like him. You could not pay that man enough money to sit in this man's corner. Now, that's an accomplishment, Chris. That's an accomplishment. Well done. The most unlikable geezer on the planet. Even your dad don't like you.
Maybe.
Shit, man. Maybe. Drop the mic.
Chris, okay, there was an order, but let's scrap the order. Let's go straight to you, Chris. You are the champion. We maybe should have started with you first. How are you feeling, Chris, 2.5 years after this was supposed to happen? There's been some ups and downs, but here we are. Like I said to Eddie, we're here. The fight will happen April 26th. What are your emotions right now?
The bad guy is back again. He still never cheats. He still never lies. He still never cuts any corners. And yet he is still the bad guy. Isn't it incredible? You know, the unique and peculiar situation we find ourselves in here today is that for the first time in boxing history, in a mega fight, there are two bad guys. Fun fact, I've been booed into every British fight I've had since 2014. Just let that sink in for a second.
No one cares, Chris.
That's 11 years. 11 years of being the bad guy. I'm a veteran at this stage. A supervillain, if you will. I remember the first time I got booed into an arena was against a fighter called Billy Joe Saunders. another scumbag in the boxing industry. And it's a cold, dark moment in your life when you realize you're in an environment where thousands and thousands and thousands of people want to see you get hurt and lose. Even recently, walking into Wembley Stadium, AJ versus Dubois, I walk in, the cameras are on me, my face goes up on the screen, 80,000 people boo me into that arena. And that is after a career-best performance against Liam Smith, where I beat him in a rematch. I say all that to say that on April 26th, I'm probably going to be walking into the same environment. But it's okay, because I'm not going to be alone. Like I said, there's two bad guys in this fight. And, you know, there's one in me who has accepted his fate. I gave up on my dreams of being the hero a long, long, long time ago. The other still wants and believes and dreams and prays.
Chris, speak on behalf of yourself.
Of being
speak on behalf of
the
yourself.
good guy, of being the golden boy. That's what I believe.
No. Speak on behalf of yourself.
I know. I'm just saying what I believe your mindset is at this stage.
This whole time, this whole 10 minutes you've been talking has been rubbish.
It's okay.
And no one's even like, what do you want, a violin?
The sickening thing about this situation is, Conor, you had it.
I have it. You don't had it.
You had it.
No, I have it.
You had it.
Your career's
everything.
done. You're fighting a welterweight at the end. That sums up your career.
You had the whole public behind you. Everyone wanted you to win. Everyone wanted you to be the next big thing in boxing. I never had that.
No one cares.
You know what I would have given to be in that situation that you were in?
But still nobody cares.
You had it.
But nobody cares still, Chris. You're still going on.
Pissed it all away. You literally pissed it all away. Now, you're here. We're at this press conference. We're going to fight, and you're going to try and use me to get back into the public's good graces. It's just not going to happen for you, kid. Sorry to break it to you.
Conor? To you, Conor.
Okay, thank you, mate.
You're the guy jumping up and weight. You've chased Chris for this fight. Again, the same question to Chris I'm going to ask to you. 2.5 years later, you've been through a lot, right? Here you are now. What's the feelings and emotions knowing that this fight is on April 26th?
Yeah, I think all the talking's been done. You know, obviously, what I've been through is very public, obviously. But excited to just get in April 26th and end this man's career.
You said, me and you have spoken a few times, and you've always said openly, privately, that you feel like you can get this job done within 6 rounds. You expect to get it done within 6 rounds. I think we all know how tough this man is. Why are you so confident that you can knock Chris Eubank Jr. out that quick?
Do you know what? I just can't take him seriously, that's all. Just look at his career. Every time he's stepped up, he's fouled. Every time. Yeah, you face better oppositions, well done you, but this is the end of your career. This is the end. This is it for you.
Wow.
I'm 28.
Wow.
Do you know what I mean? You choose to fight a welterweight over Shiraz.
What was your last fight?
Over Janibek, over Adamas, over anybody with a world title. You choose to fight a welterweight. Your career's done.
You're not a welterweight,
You've achieved your career.
You fought a light middleweight in your last fight.
I fought light middleweight to prepare for you.
Okay, so
That's all. I'm a welterweight.
No, you're not.
I'm a welterweight.
You'll be a welterweight.
And you are going to get beat.
Fight,
you are going to get rendered unconscious by a welterweight. Rendered. Yeah, exactly. Like Liam Smith. But that brings back horrors. Exactly like that. Exactly the way he jumped up to 160. And he done exactly that. Have you dancing all funny? That's exactly what's going to happen on April 26th, except by a welterweight whose name happens to be Ben. And do you know what? You can retire off to the sunset with your pension fund. But this is you done.
Oh, shivers. I love that.
Chris, I was watching back the old presser, and it feels old now, 2.5 years ago. And one thing that stood out was that you said this will be a walk in the park. You expected it to be easy work then. What about now? 2.5 years later now, what do you expect? Still the same walk in the park, still easy work, or do you expect it to be a tougher challenge now?
You know, you go online, I go online and I see that there is a split. You know, I either see people saying, Conor Benn's going to knock Eubank out early because he's too young, he's too strong, he's too ferocious, he's too hungry, he's too angry. Or Eubank wins on points because he's too big. Those are the two, and this is not just the public actually, this is respected members of the boxing community, trainers, fighters. Apparently the only way I can win this fight is just because of my size. You know, where's the fucking respect? You know, I've had 34 fights, 25 KOs, and I can only beat this guy because I'm a bit bigger than him?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
I'm going to beat him because I'm a better fighter than him.
But you're not.
In every single
But
department.
you're not. If you look at your career's done.
I don't know. But he cannot beat me, that's for sure.
Based on what? Billy Joe, George Groves, Liam Smith. I'm undefeated here. You've tasted defeat. You've been rendered unconscious before. You was eating the canvas, literally.
Rendered unconscious? I finished the fight with my feet, my friend.
Well, your corner saved you. Otherwise, you definitely would have been eating the
Rendered
canvas.
unconscious is far from what I was.
You what? Sorry?
You know,
well, I didn't hear what you said.
when you're up on your feet, demanding that the fight continues, I'm content with a loss like that, and I avenged it. Still got booed the next time I went out into an arena.
Because Liam Smith was 20%, and you still look shit.
Well,
you was 20%, and you still look shit. He threw maybe 2 punches around. Please explain to me how you want to give yourself credit. Are you really happy about that?
Why are we talking about?
No, I'm just saying. You just said you was out on your feet and you revenged the loss, and you know you're really happy about it. Are you actually happy about it?
It was a great performance.
Okay.
But let's talk about more pressing matters. Let's talk about something a bit more.
Come, let's go. I'm ready for it.
You know, like I said, we're both bad guys. Do you accept that? Do you know that you're down here in the dumps with me now? You are a villain in this sport.
Chris, I could not care less. I definitely ain't going to get my violin about and sit talking in a press conference in front of people for a good 20 minutes.
Conor, Chris, I would normally not interrupt you, but I do have an important phone call. I think both of us in the audience would want to hear from this person as well. You can speak now, you're on.
Hello.
This is His Excellency Turki Al-Sheikh on the phone wanting to speak to everyone.
I'm waiting for you in London for the conference in 27.
We will be there. I will be there.
What was I think when I do this fight? I don't know. The wait for reason. Let's see. And usually, I hope the Eddie Camp can do something. Usually Eddie Camp usually lose. And Bin Shalom, I don't hear your voice. I only hear Eddie. Why? What is the reason?
That's normal, Your Excellency.
I hope the Ben Corner can have a chance to revenge for the family. See you in 27. I think this is the biggest fight in England will be. And there is big surprise. We will do big concerts inside the stadium. We'll announce it then. Please, Eddie, try to do something this time. Thank you.
Thank you, His Excellency. Thank you very much. Normally I wouldn't interrupt you guys, but obviously very, very important. Ben, you'll get your time to talk as well. I know Ben's itching to say something. Eddie, you're itching to say something as well. Conor, it's been a long time since we've seen you in the ring, February last year. By the time the fight rolls around, you're talking nearly 15 months out of the ring. You're moving up in weight as well. You can see where the challenges start to build up. No hesitation about going to 160, 15 months out of the ring?
No concern, really. He's another man in my way that I've got to beat. I don't really look at him and go, oh, you're a big geezer. It's not really a concern to me. Ultimately, he's just an opponent in my way that I've got to beat. And, you know, once I knock him out, I'll move back down to 147 and win the world title.
One thing I do want to address, and let's address it in public now, is the rehydration clause. Where are we on this? I don't know who to address here. If I'm going to Ben or Eddie, where are we on this rehydration cap? Ben?
Look, it wasn't something that we expected. It wasn't something that was agreed. I think the first fight, the weight limits, the rehydration, it got a lot of controversy and it wasn't right. This was something that was added in last minute. It's something that we'll deal with. Chris is a professional and he'll make it the way he should, but it's not something you typically see in boxing. Not at this limit, not on the day. And it's just another thing that puts a bit of a downer on the event, when at the end of the day, this is an unbelievable event for British boxing, and it wasn't agreed until 24 hours before a contract was signed.
Okay, there you go. Eddie, any response to that?
No, I think Ben...
Eddie doesn't get a response. I've made it very clear that Eddie is not.
One thing I'll tell you, because you better get some better people working for you, son.
It's okay.
Because I'll tell you something now, what you said was very spot on, Ben. It was agreed in the contract.
What was agreed was that the fight would happen and that Conor Benn can beat Chris Eubank Jr. at any weight. That was what was agreed.
No.
Then all of a sudden we get demands from Conor and his team that...
You do know the first fight was £7 rehydration.
The original fight was 157.
I'm not worried about the original fight. You guys sprung it on us.
Hold on a minute.
About a rehydration
Then you don't put on
clause.
£8, £9. Stop talking rubbish, Chris, because that's all you've done all evening, is talk rubbish. You said your team come to my team and in fact said about a rehydration clause. £8 to £9, that's what you put on after weighing. That's what you suggested and we agreed. So to stop pushing, stop covering your ass for when you get knocked out. Stop covering your ass when you get knocked out.
Okay, all right.
We know what we
that's
signed.
who said that.
We know what we signed and we know what you signed.
Let me just tell you how, from my perspective, how it went down.
It don't, honestly.
Eddie.
Your man said when the contract...
Stop interrupting me, Eddie. Let me cook.
No, because you're a plum. Grade A plum. And you signed the contract.
I did sign the contract, and I'm going to explain why.
You know why you signed the contract?
I'm going to explain why. I like a challenge, okay? When Eddie and Conor started demanding that there was a rehydration clause for this fight, guess what I said? Show me the money. Show me the money. That's what I said, you know.
You know why?
If you're going to have that advantage over me,
that's why you need the money.
if you're going to have that advantage over me,
You're shit at poker. That's why
then
you need.
then you've got to pay top dollar.
This fight.
You've got to pay. I'm not going to give you that advantage for free.
Anyway, Addy, they signed
And
the
that's
contract.
exactly what they've done.
And that's why.
Apparently he got all the money, he signed the contract.
That's right. They paid me
Congratulations. We'll see you Saturday morning for
to
the
do
weigh-in.
the rehydration clause.
We'll see you there Saturday morning for the
As
weigh-in.
much as Eddie doesn't want to admit that and for
Not
that to
at
be
all.
public knowledge, that's what's happening.
What's public knowledge?
I'm being paid to restrict my weight.
No, you're on a weight penalty if you miss it.
No. I'm
Oh, yeah.
physically being
Chris,
paid.
such
Oh,
an
yeah.
idiot.
You
Do you
got
really
spun around in the-
think
you got
that I would
spun
ever
around
do
in
this
these
if there wasn't
negotiations.
some type of incentive?
See that geezer on your right, who I quite like now? He got spun around like a little kid on a playground on a roundabout. And every time he went round, I went, hello, Ben, hello, Ben, hello, Ben, like that. And he done a good job. He got you a good deal. But he knows what he signed. You know what you signed.
Chris was paid to do this.
I don't care what
Chris
he
was paid to do
Absolutely.
this.
Good.
And
Bottom
he was
line.
paid
Good.
to restrict
Listen,
the weight.
we were over the moon, we got 60-40 split in our favour. Next
Oh,
question.
behave, Eddie. Behave.
Now, just
Read
a
the
little
contract,
bit more.
Ben.
Just a little bit more.
And
on the
also, one thing I
rehydration.
want to say is this.
Stop interrupting me, Eddie.
No, I've
This
got
is
something
not-
else to
This is not
say
the
as
Eddie
well.
Hearn show.
Are you going to make
I
the
told you
weight?
I don't want to hear you.
Are you going to make the weight?
I told you I don't want to hear you. That's not going to...
Are you going to make the weight?
Now, this rehydration situation, you know, I've never done it before. Usually, I put on around 14 pounds after a weigh-in.
How long?
So I have two ways of approaching this now. I can either
You need new management, mate.
restrict what I eat and drink so that I make the weight the next day, or I eat and drink as much as I want, rehydrate as much as I want, as I usually do, and then on the fight day, I'll jump in a sauna or a steam room for 40 minutes, get the 4 pounds off.
Stop covering your ass for when you get knocked out. And then that's all I'm hearing.
I'll hit that number that they want me to hit. I don't know which one I'm going to do. It's a gut thing, you know. On the day I will decide. But the fact of the matter is, it's actually irrelevant. Whether there's weight clauses, restrictions, it doesn't change the outcome of the fight. One thing that you all need to know that Eddie's tried to push hard over the last few weeks is that the IBF enforced a 10-pound restriction anyway at middleweight, so that's why this is safe. The truth is, that's a lie. The IBF...
They moved it to 12 recently.
Exactly, which is what he did not tell you, is that it's a 12-pound weight limit. So, just another example of Eddie lying through his teeth to the public to try and make himself look good.
Not at all.
Situation.
It's all down to the negotiation, and as I said...
Why is it now that only people are only hearing you say it's 12 pounds?
Because that's the IBF rule that's just been changed.
Because you chat shit.
Chris,
you've been trying to pull the wool over people's eyes.
You said in the first fight,
I'm going to expose
you only
everything.
hydrate 5 or 6 pounds.
Now it's talking about the 5 pound. Why are you talking about the last fight?
Now it's 14 pounds.
Nobody cares about the last fight. We're talking about now.
Is it going to make a difference?
The IBF,
Chris, is it going to make a difference?
limit.
Chris, just get it in the open now. Is it going to make a difference?
Not a 12-pound limit. Not
is it going to make a difference in this fight?
Why are you talking to me? Conor.
Let me ask you that question.
Because your promoter is saying more on this table than
Sorry,
you.
Eddie.
But he isn't.
Is this Eubank Hearn or Eubank Ben?
By the excuses.
This is pretty wild, actually, Conor. You're letting this guy chat for you. It's embarrassing. Say something.
I'm just answering your question.
I don't want to talk to you, Eddie.
I don't want to talk to you. You talk so much shit.
You're so unimportant to me, it's not even funny.
Ditto.
Chris, let me ask the question then. Will the rehydration clause make a difference?
Will it make a difference? I'm not going to lose the fight, if that's what you mean. Will I be affected? Of course I will. I'm being restricted from how much I can eat and drink. So there will be a slight disadvantage. But I'm being paid, so I will accept that challenge. It's very simple.
I want to bring in someone that knows all about the Benn Eubank rivalry more than anyone on this top table, and that is the great Nigel Benn on the end there.
Thank you, thank you.
Nigel, here you go. This is the baton you've passed to your son to take the challenge. How do you feel this version of Conor Benn maybe differs from the version that was going to fight 2.5 years ago?
Well, I like to say he's matured in him 2 years. It's like I'm more excited about this fight than it was with me and Chris Senior.
Wow.
I got more confidence in his fight than my fight when I fought Chris, because the way Conor prepared for the fight, he's just excelled in everything that he done. And people say, like, you know, he's moving up 2 weights. Conor walks around at 12 stone. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. The guys that he's sparring with, they're huge. And I believe it's not like, you know, what round he's going to do him in, what round. I think as soon as he hits much harder than Liam Smith. And I think once Conor put that pressure on him, Conor can do 12 rounds at pace. And you know what? If he wants to come in there at 60% against my son, mate. And you know what it is, Chris? I want to apologize to you, because I remember you saying, like, you know, that I was disrespectful to your dad. So I'm sorry if I offended you saying that I hate your dad. I don't hate your dad, because you know what it is? Through my stupidity. That was my stupidity. I'm a 61-year-old man, and you know what? I thank God for having Chris in my life, because at the end of the day, we've done so much. We've left you lot to carry on the legacy. So at the end of the day, but I apologize for what I said about hating your dad. I really don't. But because you was going on about it, and at the end of the day, I just want to let you know, I'm sorry. But retribution is coming your way, mate. I'm telling you. It is coming your way, mate. You know, he's going to hit you so many times with a left, you're going to be crying for a right. He's going to hit you so many times, you're going to think you're surrounded. I'm telling you, mate.
That's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear apologies. I want to hear how your son's going to be.
He's going to put it on you, mate. And I'm so confident, so confident, mate.
Good.
Nigel, what in Conor's career gives you the confidence that he's going to beat Chris?
What gives me the confidence? Because I know my boy. He's got my DNA, but much better.
He's not even fought at British level.
No. Listen.
Ben,
hold on. Let me finish. I didn't fight for a British title.
But you fought above British and European level.
28, Ben.
You fought,
you don't know nothing about.
28 years old. At 28 years old, Chris Eubank Jr was further than this.
At 28 years old, I got a good 5 years left. I ain't in no hurry. So far, what I have done is good. It's great. So far, what I've done, I'm still undefeated.
Go on.
I don't even know why you're talking.
If you're that, Conor, if you're that confident, no, we want to talk
no.
about contracts. If you're that confident,
Oh, shut up.
right?
Don't come out
There was a
with
rematch. There's a rematch clause in this.
Don't-
There's a rematch clause in this fight,
Which
right?
you asked for.
But both fighters.
You asked for the
both
rematch
fighters,
clause, Ben.
You were desperate for it, Eddie.
Ben,
you were desperate
you asked for a
because he's got
two-fight deal.
2 paydays left.
You asked for it.
Yeah, it's 2 easy paydays. Of course.
All right,
we'll
okay,
take it.
so you asked for
But
the
just just to be clear, both fighters were offered. So they want to take a number if they win or a number if they lose, right? The higher number if you win, the lower number if you lose. Chris, of course, the confidence takes the number
You lot
lower
asked
if
for the
you lose.
rematch.
We didn't want a second fight.
Connor decides win or lose, he wants the same number.
Ben,
so
Ben,
no, you
Ben,
can talk all in about all
classroom
the
time.
confidence.
Listen, classroom time.
No, Eddie.
You asked for the rematch. You asked for 2 fights.
It's easy to
Hold
fight.
on a minute.
You asked for 2 fights.
1 second.
Let's
see
be
what
clear.
you just said. No, Ben, you see what you just said.
You wanted the same number, win or lose.
Hold on a minute. You see what you just said?
Yeah.
I'll pop the messages about you saying to me, make sure there's a rematch clause.
Of course, it's
No,
2
no,
easy
don't of course
paydays.
me. Don't of course me.
Nigel,
Ben,
this is
you've absolutely done yourself up like Kipper.
Eddie,
Asked for a rematch.
Eddie,
You asked for a rematch.
Eddie, I've got messages from you.
Ben, did you
asking
ask for a rematch?
Of course, it's 2 easy
Okay, done.
paydays.
Thank you.
We're getting paid
That's
more
not
for
what
the
signed the
second fight.
contract.
Okay, on to the next thing now. We get it. There's going to be a rematch.
Let me just
No,
speak.
come on. No, it's too much. It's too much. We're not here to hear you chat shit to Eddie, and it's all bullshit.
That's the best thing you've said all night, Chris.
The only voice I want to hear is Conor, or my own voice. I have. It's the truth. What are we doing here?
What about your team?
No. This is not a team sport. It's going to be me and Conor hurting each other in a few months' time. So all this bullshit you guys are going back and forth about now, it's irrelevant. No one's going to remember
You
it.
started it about the rehydration.
Now, I read a tweet that made me chuckle last week. And it kind of sums up what this fight is. The guy said, Chris Eubank Jr. is an arrogant fucking prick. Word for word. And I can't wait until he smashes the eggs out of Conor Benn. That's what the tweet was. Beautifully written. I don't understand it, but that's the passion that we have garnered now for this fight. Too bad, guys. Conor, I've been meaning to ask you for a long time. It's interested me. How many eggs did you have to eat to fail those 2 drugs tests? You dirty little omelet.
The reality is.
Please tell me.
The reality is.
It's been racking my brains for a long time.
No problem.
Everyone wants to know. How many eggs did you eat?
The reality is, I've been cleared 3 times by the NADP, by the WBC, by UCAD, by the way, which people are a lot smarter than you. Number 1, I've been cleared. 2, you will never be cleared of being a wanker. Period. That's it.
So when you say you've been cleared, what does that mean?
I'm cleared of people by a lot smarter than you.
What does it mean?
You have the IQ of a 5-year-old child.
Does that mean that the drugs weren't in your system?
I've been cleared. Done.
There you go.
That's it. Go on. No, you keep going on, but I've been cleared.
The entire public wants to know why
but that's the truth.
there were
You're an
performance-enhancing drugs in your system, and all you and Eddie can come up with
Do your
after
research.
2.5 years
Do your
is
research. Do your
he's
research.
been cleared. We can't say how or why.
Do your research,
But he's
Chris.
been cleared. It's okay.
Well, I would like to say, you don't spend nearly £1 million to fight the case if your drugs cheat.
Yes,
and
you
that
do.
Was,
That's exactly what
That was
you
their
do.
own money. No,
But he's an
I don't
idiot.
care how
Because
much
he owes
money you
Neymar
put.
4 million quid. That's why he's taking this fight. So don't talk shit.
What did you say? What?
I said he owes Neymar 4 million quid. You not heard? No, exactly. So don't come and talk to me about bollocks. This is why you've taken this fight. And you're about to get rendered unconscious for it. You're money hungry. That's the only reason.
I was just giving you a chance to explain
think.
yourself to the public.
You sit down there and have a think.
I guess you guys don't have an explanation, but you're cleared, I guess.
Done by people who are a lot smarter. By people who are a lot smarter than you, Chris.
Listen, I'm sure they are. I'm a fighter.
Well, exactly.
I'm not an academic.
Well, exactly. That's it.
But one thing I do know is you are a judge.
What I do know is you're an idiot
There's
who's
no
taking
way
this
around.
fight because you owe someone some money. That's what I know.
How much money do you owe Eddie? Let's talk about that.
I owe Eddie nothing. No.
I've heard you.
Okay,
you paid for your house. You paid for your cars.
I can confirm that's incorrect. Conor Benn owes us no money.
We all know we can't trust what you say.
But what shit are you talking?
I think that is actually the reason why you've been pushing so hard for this fight, Eddie, because you want to recoup some of that money.
Oh, I love the fight. I think he wins.
I know, of course you think he
No,
wins.
you don't, Eddie.
Of course I do, Ben.
No, you don't.
That's why I didn't want a rematch. And you made sure there was one in because your bum was
You
flat.
wanted a rematch.
Not at all.
You
We
begged
never-
for a
we never
rematch.
had
We don't give a shit about the rematch. We care about what's going to happen April 26th.
Good. And what's going to happen? Because you keep talking about the last
This is,
fight.
this
You keep
is
talking about
the
this and
easiest
that.
press conference
What
I've ever
happens?
done. I don't even need to be here.
What happens April 26th, Chris?
What do you mean what happens?
You tell us.
Do you like I haven't said it a million times already?
Really, you've kind of beat around the bush. You're the bigger man, points, have some respect. How do you win?
I said I am the better fighter, not because of my size, but because of my pedigree, because of my experience, because of these 35-year-old fists.
Well, what happens?
What happens is tune in, and you will see.
Doesn't sound very confident.
It's a good way to say it. Tune in, he's right, April 26th. Chris, I know you want this to be the Chris and Conor show, but Ronnie Shields is there, Jonathan Banks is there, and it would be wrong of me not to get a word from the great Ronnie Shields, who has been involved in Benn versus Eubank for 4 decades. Ronnie, what do you make of this? The son's getting it on just like the way you saw Senior and Nigel get it on.
Well, I think it's great. Can everyone hear me all right?
We can,
Yeah.
we can.
Good.
By the way, you referred to him as Ronnie Shields. That is not his name. He is Ronnie Davis.
Apologies,
let's,
Ronnie
let's
Davis.
Put some
My
respect
apologies,
on that
Ronnie.
man's
There's
name.
only
He's
one
done too
name.
much in the game to fuck up his name.
Anyway, I've got the greatest respect for obviously Nigel Benn and his son. I'm old school. I don't slag fighters off or the trainers. How can I not have a great lot of respect for Nigel Benn when I was in the opposite corner for him twice, 2 major wars. It's quite sickening sometimes being in the corner, seeing them punches go in. And I think you're going to see another great fight. I would say, may the best man win. But, Conor, Chris is too big for you, mate, and you haven't boxed enough, and you haven't fought at his level. He's too big. And he is good. People don't realise how good...
Too good, Davis. Come on now. I just spent the whole time saying how I don't like people saying I'm too big. Now you're saying I'm too big. It's the skills. It's what you've watched me do for the last, since I was 14 years old, traveling up to London, traveling all around the country, sparring all these pros, going to Vegas, putting in the work, paying my dues.
Yeah, you sparred with Frotch, you sparred with Groves, you sparred with all the top boys. It was great.
How long ago was that? And look what happened with Liam Smith. Got to answer me that. What happened? What went wrong there?
There was a reason for that, which in my opinion, but I won't disclose why I thought you lost.
Even the second fight, for the first 3 rounds, he was holding on for dear life and didn't realise that Smith ain't got nothing to throw at him.
That they shouldn't have took the fight. Chris done what he had to do, and he put on a great performance.
No, that's not a great performance, mate.
Well, I don't want to get involved in those slagging matches. Not my way.
We're not getting into that. I'm not slagging anybody off, but it wasn't a great performance, mate.
All I say is it'll be a great fight for the fans and everyone. May the best man win, which will be Eubank. He's too big, he's too experienced, and he's very, very good. I know Eubank's better than anyone. I've been with him since he was born.
Yeah,
I know,
same here with my son.
Yeah, I'm not saying any different, Nigel. All I'm saying is a lot of people don't know what he is. I do. I'll just rest my case on that one. Eubanks wins.
Ronnie, thank you very much. Ronnie Davis, apologies again. Thank you very much. Jonathan Banks, you've been quiet at the end there. You've been nodding your head, laughing, agreeing with a lot of what Chris has had to say. What do you make of this fight? Jonathan, again, you've been in big fights, world title fights. You've been alongside Vladimir Klitschko. You've been some big ones. What do you make of this one? Yeah, I want to hear from you, Jonathan.
I think it will be a good fight.
I knew Jonathan was going to do that. That's good. I knew he was going to do that. All right, final word from both fighters as we end what has been a very entertaining press conference. I'll start with you, Conor. Again, your thoughts on an incredible matchup. You're going to see him again on Thursday, so save some good stuff. But your thoughts on this big matchup?
Genuinely excited. I'm glad that this fight could happen for the fans. I think it's not been done in history before. I'm looking forward to the challenge of stepping up 2 weight divisions. Not that that's really, you've not really heard us moan about that at all. But excited to, yeah, as I said, jump up to this, this plate and give the fans the fight they want. That's that's mainly it. Just happy to get this fight done and over the line, because at one stage it was looking like it wasn't going to happen.
Indeed. And Chris, again, this is it, right? Here we are. A walk in the park, easy work. Too big, too strong was a lot of the phrases you were using last time. How do you approach this one this time?
April 26th, the procedure will be parliamentary.
And on that note, we end what's been a very, very interesting press conference. Yeah, indeed. Tickets. Everyone's asking about tickets. Tickets go general sale this Friday, midday. Make sure you set your alarms. You can head to ticketmaster.com to buy tickets. And look out as well for a pre-sale. Check your social media tomorrow. Details of the pre-sale will happen tomorrow on social media. Make sure you stay tuned to all the social media channels. We are going to do a face-off between these two, which is going to be very interesting, so we're going to get prepared for that. Thank you.
As soon as Eubank pulled the parliamentary procedure out of the bag early on, I knew we were in for a good one, Dave. That was terrific. It was everything that we kind of expected it to be, and more, to be honest. Everybody was going at it. Okay, these two are going to face off, and they are mic'd up, these two. So let's just see if they say anything to each other. Let's just pause and have a good look at this and a good listen to it.
April 26th, live on DAZN Worldwide and Sky Sports box office in the UK and Ireland, Saturday. April 26th. It's Benn versus Eubank. The limit 160 pounds. The family feud goes on.
Oh, tempers flaring there.
I got that one wrong, didn't I?
Sorry to say, I did tell you before it. He called that one, and it really has erupted down here on the stage.
That's absolutely...
Fuck off me!
Wow. Well, I really wasn't expecting that. I absolutely was not expecting that, because the tenor of the press conference was, it was edgy, it was lively, but it was quite good-humoured mostly, to be honest, and then that got completely out of control. We didn't really hear what they were saying to each other. We could have done with Michael Buffer just taking it easy there so we could listen into the fighters, but something was said, and Eubank struck Conor Benn with an open hand. He struck him with an open hand. Something was said there, and then this happened. It's a push rather than a slap, but it's serious. It's serious. You lay your hands on another fighter in this kind of situation, and that is not acceptable. And you look at security there trying to subdue Conor Benn. He is absolutely fuming, as you would expect. Something was said there, and we saw the reaction. And security did well there, actually.
Yeah.
Well, they jumped in really, really quickly. They got hold of Conor. It took 4, 5, 6 of them to make sure they kept him under control. But up until that point, everything had gone pretty smoothly, to be honest with you. Things hadn't really got out of control, and that took us all by surprise.
Do you know what? I was looking at the stage in the little square that they're on, and I'm looking at Conor thinking, is Conor going to shove him? I'm expecting a two-handed shove off of Conor. That's what I was... The next minute, it's Chris. I really didn't see that coming at all. I can't believe he's done that.
Now, I'm not saying I'm an expert at lip reading or anything, but it almost seemed like Conor was given the energy of, you're lucky I don't just give it to you right now and here. That's what it seemed like to me. I was looking at Conor thinking Conor had the energy and something was clearly said, and Chris, you know, reacted as badly as you can expect, really, I feel like. And, you know, both teams are going to be going away with that, with a lot to think about now. And although it's easy to look at Chris Eubank as being, oh, yeah, well, you got to slap off, something Conor had done, had said, got under his skin enough to put him in a position where, look, we're not talking small 4-round purses here. We're talking multi-millions, and there will be a lot of restrictions in the action that goes up in presenting yourself in a conductful way before you get in the ring. And I don't know, that could really put a lot of jeopardy and maybe a spanner amongst the works, because that was a liberty.
It was, absolutely. No, it absolutely was. I've never seen a reaction like that from Eubank before.
No, we've been talking about prior about how calm and cool, calculated he is, emotionless. Something got under his skin. I mean, you could almost see him, Bennett says, as if he's saying, what are you saying? And then when it's registered, whatever he said, I can't wait to hear off the mics what was said, because when it's registered what is said to him, he's got that reaction. Yes, he hasn't punched him, but it's, I mean, there. It's like, you know.
That was heavy as well.
That was heavy. It was using his size.
But do you know what? I'm so excited by this. I know it's bad, and I shouldn't be encouraging it. But how many times do we sit here and deep down thinking, oh, is it just a bit of gamesmanship, a bit of expressing yourself a bit more because the camera's out? I don't have one doubt that anything that was said there with conviction wasn't meant from the person, and that slap had every bit of I can't wait to get my hands on you energy to it. It weren't as quickly as you can get away with. It was as much physical weight as he could put behind an open hand slap, in my opinion. And I could see why Conor was absolutely livid, fuming. He was almost frothing from the mouth. You could see the genuine rage, because so many times you think there's too much riding. At this moment, you're there, you're face to face, you've got all the thoughts going through your head, you may be doing a little talk. You're not ever expecting that. You're never expecting that.
We'll see what happens as a result of it. We're hoping to get as many people up here as we can. Things will be happening backstage at the moment. Maybe Eubank will want to talk, maybe he won't. Maybe Ben will, maybe he won't. But over the course of today and Thursday, we will get everybody. I promise you that. It may affect how Thursday is conducted. Can they let them do a face-off on Thursday after that? I doubt it.
No, I don't think
to be honest. Will the Boxing Board of Control have something to say about this? I would obviously think so.
They'll step in, without a doubt. They'll step in. There'll probably be a fine for Chris. Obviously, security restrictions. But Price, you can't. I thought the security handled it really, really well. And like I said, that was totally unexpected. You can feel the shock in the auditorium where we're at now. I mean, I'm absolutely in shock at that. Like I said, I was looking at the staging and I'm thinking it's Conor. In my head, I'm just thinking Conor's going to do two hands straight in his chest. That's what I'm thinking. And to see it being Chris, that's really, really shocking.
As for the rest of it before that, it was, like I said, it was entertaining, it was lively, it was close to the bone at times, but nobody got too carried away. There's nothing there that you couldn't show to anyone, for example. You explained the context, there was nothing really unsavoury. They went in all the places, they poked in all the kind of wounds that you would expect them to poke in. Everybody on that table, apart from Jonathan Banks, who just sat and watched it and then said, yeah, I think it's going to be a great fight, which was fair enough.
They might have left it too long to ask him a question. I think he was half asleep by the time he got brought into the press conference table.
I think they 100% had. There was lots of rowing about the contract. To be honest, I don't care about that because the contract was signed.
Yeah.
You signed it.
Yeah, if you've signed it, then you've got no comeback on it. Once you sign a contract, when you're in the negotiation stage, if you're unhappy about things, hold fast, refuse to accept. Once you accept, you can't whine about it, because it's like he's saying, he even said it there himself, Chris. He said, they paid me to, well, you've accepted it.
But from my perspective, it looked like Chris was more understanding and knew it all. I think Ben kind of dropped himself in it. Oh, yeah, rematch. Well, hold on, you asked for the rematch and then admitted and accepted that it was you lot that made the first play for the rematch. So you can't be the one, the reason why there's a rematch clause in the first place, and then bring that up months later as like, oh, you didn't even want a rematch. It's like, because we just wanted to win and get on. We didn't want to, you know, oh, just in case we lose, make sure you fight us again. And okay, Ben then came out and said, well, it's 2 easy paydays. But now it's kind of all falling apart, because if it's that easy of a payday, why are you mentioning the weight? Why are you even asking for a rematch? Why, like,
Listen,
if it's going to be so one-sided, like Ben was leading us to believe there, you know?
I think to be fair, they'll have probably always going to be a rematch, because when they talk about fights like this, rivalries like this, you're expecting a good fight. Listen, we're going to get 2 fights out of this, 2 paydays out of this. So there was probably always going to be a rematch, but it's just the way that it was brought up, using it as a feel sorry for me sort of card.
Yeah, or oh, you lot weren't that confident because of this, but really, for me, in any big fight that I ever started negotiating, I never mentioned a rematch clause, because I wanted to win and get on with the next step. And only time would I ever considered one if it was getting requested from the other side to me. Now, fair's fair. We'll both have one then, just to save face more than anything. But for me, it's always interesting for the side that wants to go for the rematch. But usually, yeah, guarantee of 2 paydays. But why be so forward for that? Probably because at Chris Eubank's stage of his career, it doesn't matter really how far he goes, in my opinion. There probably won't be a bigger fight for him at this stage, outside of something extraordinary happening, than Conor Benn.
No, I agree with that. And I think that was the only part of the press conference where I thought it got slightly dull. It was all a bit he said, she said, and everybody's talking over each other. And at the end of it, it doesn't matter now, because the contract is signed. It's at 160. There's a £10 rehydration, and there's a rematch clause. Done. There's nothing else to talk about. Turki Al-Sheikh got in on the act. We'll see him on Thursday. He was telling us he'll be along to London, to Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, which is a terrific stadium. Absolutely tremendous. I've been lucky to be there for the Joshua Usyk fight and for Fury as well, and it's set up very well for boxing. It really is. And end of April, hopefully the weather will be kind. But it just started well, didn't it? With Eubank immediately just trying to shut Eddie down and saying, look, I'm not interested in you. I don't want to hear anything about you. And he did start to talk about what we were talking about this idea that he's accepted the fact that he will forever be the bad guy. And you can tell when he talks about it, I think you can anyway, that he doesn't actually like it. He finds it a bit mystifying.
Yeah, he is. I think, he said there he's never actually done anything wrong on.
And I do agree with him to a certain degree.
Yeah, but I think the reason why he doesn't get a love from the fans is because you'll see what he'll tweet, you'll see how he'll dig people, he'll poke people, and then his demeanour about things. So he's not very. People aren't going to warm to that. So then, when you are playing that character, if that's not you, but you are playing that character where you're constantly going to be poking, we've seen it over the years. Somebody gets knocked out, he'll send a tweet digging them out straight away. We, as boxing fans, we don't take to that, and as other fellow fighters, we don't really take to that. So then, if you're going to do things like that, you've got to understand that people aren't going to be on your side for that. You know, you're not going to back you on that. So he has done things. He's not done anything wrong. He's never, like he said, he's never failed a drugs test. He's never, he's not done anything criminal as far as we know. So.
He turns up on weight.
So I understand.
Professional. He's in shape.
On that side why he's mystified, but you can't discount the other things that you do that do get under people's skin. So that's why he's, he has got the bad guy persona, and he revels in it, because when he is getting booed, he comes on the side of the ring and he struts. He's always from day one played the character of his dad. If you remember how his first ring walks were. So he's always played that sort of character, and he's always revelled it, and he's earned a lot of money out of it.
And I think it's something that has happened through the years of the sport, really. It's sometimes you just fall into that bad side, and, when it happens, you don't really have an answer to it.
Here he is.
Yes, Ben.
OK, so Ben Shalom has done us a favour and come up to join us. Thanks for joining, because that got quite interesting towards the end there. I think that's fair to say. So just give us your experience of what happened at the end there. I think we'll be able to watch it back as you talk. You don't necessarily have to commentate on it, but from where you were standing, what was said, what happened, why did it happen?
Honestly, I have no idea.
No comment. Smart.
No, what was? I think it was an egg. We can see it was an egg, but I didn't know what it was at the time. Obviously, I was in shock like everyone else.
Oh, yeah,
it was an egg. It was an egg. It was an egg.
Oh, wow, we didn't pick up on that at all.
So he knew he was going to do that all along. So it doesn't matter what Conor said. He knew he was going to do that.
Jeez,
if he's got
it went kicked off there, didn't it?
It really did. Well, in real time, watching it from
Eddie come in at me.
I thought he was going to be swinging. I thought I was watching for you.
I didn't throw the egg. No, it was a great press conference up until that point. I have to say, probably that does go too far, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But my God, that was mental. That was mental.
I was just saying, I was looking at the stage, the square, and I'm looking at Conor. I'm thinking it's Conor that's going to do a push in the chest. I did not expect that from Chris, not at all.
No.
And we didn't, in real time, we didn't see the egg because we're watching the stage from probably about 20, 30 yards away.
Outside of the splash zone.
Yeah, should have got me right up.
And it was all over quite quick. But before that, it was interesting. It was what you want that to be. It was spicy, but I wouldn't say it was respectful necessarily. But it wasn't. It was fine.
I enjoyed it. I thought everyone was. It was just about right.
Yeah.
You can see what it's like between those two. It's not born rivals anymore. That's what makes me so excited. You've got that Eubank Benn thing, but it's not about their dads.
The personalities now
mental.
are just
great press conference, but I have to say, I will put on record, I think that was too far at the end.
Yeah.
I didn't know what it was. I've watched it back. It's obviously an egg, but just look, it adds to it. It adds to it. It'll be interesting what happens on Thursday now.
It absolutely will be. Where's Chris? Is he gone? Is he still
probably chilling out? Probably having a little sleep, washing his hands,
making an omelette.
Look, Chris is uncontrollable in that situation. He does what he wants. He thinks what he wants. We've seen him what he's been like in press conferences this year. He's a man of his own, and if he feels he's going to do something, he's going to do something. As I say, too far for me, but. Unbelievable press conference, unbelievable entertainment. Even as a fan, you know, when I first got into boxing, when I loved boxing, it was those big British nights where tables are getting thrown. Are just going crazy. We don't get many of them anymore. And I was just sat up there like how I used to feel watching a Chisora fight or a David Haye fight. It was unbelievable. So I think the promotion's incredible. I think obviously at the end we'll speak to Chris, and then I'm sure Thursday will be fine.
Okay, well, we're hoping to get a few more people up here. In the meantime, whilst we wait, whilst we see how it all pans out, let's have a look back at the highlights from what was, in the end, a very eventful press conference.
I want to be seated as close to my enemies as possible. I want to be able to see.
I agree. This was Eddie's choice. This was Eddie's.
Of course it was Eddie's choice. Of course Eddie wants the promoters to be in between the fighters. So I'm going to sit here, and Ben, you should sit there. You do what you want.
I don't know who you think you're talking to, silly bollocks.
And, you know, we got to a stage, the fight was announced.
Eddie.
It was the...
You know I don't like you, right?
I don't know.
So if you know that, what on God's sweet green earth makes you think I'm going to sit here and listen to any of the bollocks that you have to say about it?
To be honest, I mean, you're going to have to.
No.
Conor Benn. How are we feeling about smashing this geezer to pieces April 26th?
Let's hear from Conor.
His dad don't even like him. You could not pay that man enough money to sit in this man's corner. Now that's an accomplishment, Chris.
The bad guy is back again. He still never cheats. He still never lies. He still never cuts any corners. And yet he is still the bad guy.
Do you know what? I just can't take him seriously, that's all. Just look at his career.
Everyone wanted you to win. Everyone wanted you to be the next big thing in boxing. I never had that.
No one cares.
You know what I would have given to be in that situation that you were in?
But still nobody cares.
I'm going to beat him because I'm a better fighter than him.
But you're not.
In every single department.
But you're not. If you look at your career's done.
I don't know.
So stop pushing. Stop covering your ass for when you get knocked out. Stop covering your ass when you get knocked out.
You know, he's going to hit you so many times with a left, you're going to be crying for a right.
Family feud goes on.
Oh, tempers flaring there. I got that one wrong, didn't I?
Okay, so there we go. There's the highlights from the press conference. Obviously, the main highlight was right at the end there. Eddie Hearn, as you can see, has joined us. And we were just saying from up on the stage here that the egg factor was kind of lost on us. But you can't be happy about this because, obviously, that's premeditated. He was always going to do that. And it's not acceptable to do that at a face-off at the press conference.
No, I mean, everything he does is premeditated. Nothing that the thing about... Yeah, what we do is when Eddie Hearn starts talking, you butt in and tell him no one wants to hear. Like, there's nothing that happens where he adapts to during a press conference. So I thought it was a bitch move, to be honest with you, because what he's done is he's taken an egg to a press conference. He sat at the press conference the whole time with an egg, and he's slapped Conor Benn in the eye with an egg. I thought it was a glass, I've got to be honest with you, because when it smashed and the noise it made, that's where I was sort of like, bits were flying everywhere, you know? And like, listen, I think the world we live in today, it will go viral, people will think it's quite amusing, but I'll just tell you one thing, in the fight game, everything changes now about this fight. Like, you don't want to be backstage right now. If I was you, if you see Nigel Benn tonight, run. These people, they're not normal people. They don't go and have a cup of tea and then forget about it and everybody calms down and goes, oh, it was what it was. This fight was heated. This fight had bad blood. Everything has changed tonight from that. And I don't know if we can do Thursday's press conference. I've got to be honest with you, because it will be attack on sight. It won't be have a sleep on it, calm down. No, because it's a one-upmanship. Yeah. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You slapped me.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get to you.
That's physical.
I couldn't get to you. And it wasn't a slap, it was with an object in the eye. Right? So, from my point of view, it's unacceptable, but the game's the game. But if you want to play those games, then the fun really begins now. And it might not be the fun that people want, but
with that in mind, people will want to see this press conference on Thursday. Turkey Yellow Shaker's coming over to London, so I think we can pretty safely say that will happen. But measures may have to be put in place.
Certainly now, I could not let Conor Benn anywhere near Chris Eubank Jr. I could not let Nigel Benn anywhere near Chris Eubank Jr. Now, whether that changes in 48 hours, we'll have to see. But these two need to be kept apart, and they cannot be anywhere near each other, because, you know, you're talking about Conor Benn, who's a hot-headed kid, and you're talking about the old school, right? You're talking about Nigel Benn. And I know he's 61, and I know he's found God, but he's still Nigel Benn. And you hit his son round the face with an object.
We could have a Chisora situation where they have to be separated by, I mean, it was a cage there, which it was kind of an unedifying spectacle, but they've got to be separated somehow, haven't they, in a way where they cannot get...
Either that or just they can't have a face-off, especially on Thursday.
The thing is, yeah, what it's not annoys me the most, because it is what it is, but you know that they've all sat there and talked about what to do.
Yeah, of course.
Like, this ain't Eubank kept it to himself and gone, right, what? And he's gone into the kitchen and he's picked up an egg from the side. He's thought to himself. They've all had a chat, including Shalom down there, because I told him. I said, if you were in on this, you're a dog. He's like, no, I swear, I did. Like, we'll never know the truth.
He did say it was too far, but I see the smirk in his face.
But you know
what I said to him.
You know, when we fought Hay, yeah, everything they did was premeditated, wasn't it? When he had to go at me at the presser, when he slapped Tony, they talked as a team, didn't they? Like, all the trainers, the management, they knew what they were doing all the time. So when they turned up tonight, don't think that Chris Eubank just put an egg in his pocket and went, oh, I'm not going to tell anyone. Everyone knew what was going to happen. But
I mean, up to that, it was a great press conference, a really good press conference.
And, you know, Eubank's a great character. Like, I actually find him quite amusing.
Did he wind you up a little bit?
No, he waffled a lot. That's what I couldn't understand.
But did he wind you up a little bit when we were trying to stop you talking?
Not really. I've sort of had that before with Hay. It was a carbon copy of what David Hay did to me years ago. And, like, I don't mind all that back and forward. I don't like what he did. I just thought it was a bit of a big move, if I'm honest. But, like, it's also the fight game. And anything goes. But when you do that, it does change from a backwards and forwards, because you said this, to you just hit me around the face, in my eye. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, once it becomes physical, it's completely different.
It is now.
I mean, it's,
That's what it is. Yeah. That's the reality. Right now, it's physical.
Yeah.
And for a period of time, it will be attack on sight. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, like, even me, I lost me reg. I'm Big Morgan.
Was you going for Ben?
No, but I just wanted to, because I knew. I said to Shalom, he said to me before, he was like, oh, they're definitely up. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm out of it. I don't know. And I'm thinking, you know. And then, but I was expecting it just to be words.
Yeah.
And then when that happened, I looked at him and I thought, you know, and then I just moved forward. And then this Big Morgan geezer who looked after me, I couldn't move. I was like, went like that, and I was just stuck in the mud. You know what I mean? But listen, it's the build-up.
Yeah.
And I told everyone the build-up is going to be volatile. It's going to be aggressive.
Yeah.
And now it's probably a bit dangerous as well. But April 26th, I mean, I just wish we would have gone to a bigger stadium. Is Wembley still around? You know what I mean?
Okay, well, we'll leave it there. Hopefully we will see you on Thursday. I'm going to go to the stadium on Thursday
I'm sure
afternoon.
it'll be on, but it's like, yeah. Trust me when I say, when Conor Benn goes to sleep tonight, the resting heart rate won't be that low.
No, as we all know, there is a line, and when it gets crossed, it gets crossed, and there's no going back across it. So it'll be very interesting to see what happens on Thursday. Okay, well, that wraps it up from the first leg of this week's press tour for Eubank against Benn. It did not disappoint, I think it's fair to say. I hope you enjoyed it. We will see you again on Thursday.